Good morning, Bardstown and Nelson County. Welcome to another edition of Bradford and Brooks. Jim Brooks, Margie Bradford with you this morning on this beautiful, sunny, but rather cool morning. Good morning, Margie.
Good morning, Jim.
Well, what do you think about this weather?
Well, I like it.
Well, it was a
I would like
surprise.
it better if I had my winter clothes out, but I do. I mean, I love fall.
Well, it's supposed to warm up later this week, I think in the 70s, so don't put your summer clothes away yet.
Well, no, knowing my habits lately, I would say that's not a danger.
Well, I try to cram them all in one closet. You know, men don't require as much closet space as women.
That is true.
You know,
That should be part of the marriage contract.
Well, yeah, it's one of those things you don't discover until
Yeah.
after you're married. Yeah, my wife has she's got our closet, and then she's got she's annexed two closets in the kids' bedrooms upstairs. So it's more of she needs a computer to keep track of her inventory. All right.
That's next in the line.
Right. I don't want to get in trouble. I better shut up.
Yeah, you bet. Quit while you're ahead, Jim.
That's right. That's right. Well, Margie, we have a very special studio guest, but before we get to that, I just want to remind the listening public that early voting will start. It's the Thursday, Friday, and Saturday.
Right, Thursday and Friday, Saturday before the election.
Before the election.
And that takes place at the clerk's office.
No, I thought it was at the library.
Are they doing that?
Yeah, they're using the big meeting room.
They did in the spring.
Right.
In the May.
Right, but that room wasn't damaged when they had from the water broken pipe.
Right.
But it'll be at the Nelson County main branch of the Nelson County Public Library. Doesn't matter where you live in Nelson County, just go in and vote. And then on election day, there will be 8 voting centers. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't matter where you live in the county, you can vote at any of the 8. So I'm not sure.
That's really convenient for people because, you work in different parts of the county, and that would make it, say, like somebody that lived in New Haven and worked in Bardstown,
Mm-hmm.
have to drive back to New Haven
Right.
to vote. So,
Right.
yeah, that's a big improvement, I think.
Right. But anyway, just some changes, but be aware that and please get out and vote. Please do your duty, and my father used to say, if you don't vote, don't gripe. But that didn't stop most people, I think. All right. Well, we have a very special studio guest with us today. Nelson County School Board candidate, Joedy Gilliland. Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Now, I probably will get the wrong district for you. Is it District 2?
It is.
All right.
You're right on it.
All right. Well, Jody's running for District 2 on the Nelson County Board of Education. And last week we had incumbent Diane Berry, and that video is available on YouTube, or you can go to the Nelson County Gazette. And this video will be available later this week as well, if you missed the interview. Well, Joedy, you've decided to throw your hat in the ring for school board. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what you bring to the table as a potential school board member, and a little bit about your background.
Gotcha. Well, first off, thank you for having me. Well, listened several times, but first time on there with you guys. I had been on there a couple times with Milt Spalding, so it's good to be back in here. So, my name is Joedy Gilliland. I am running for school board. I have 3 children, 2 of which are in our county school system. My oldest son is graduated. He went to Columbia University in New York, and he stayed up there. So that's where he's at. And I have a daughter that is in Nelson County High School, and I have a daughter that is in Cox's Creek Elementary. So that's a little bit about me. My wife and I, we live obviously in the District 2 area. So she used to work in the school system, and I used to be the school resource officer, so that's kind of my tie on how I became so interested in the school system.
Well, you were there a good while.
Yes, ma'am. I took over whenever Sheriff Steve Campbell became the sheriff. I was then the school resource officer from 2011 to roughly 2015. So that's where a lot of my background is in law enforcement, and I think that brings a unique perception to the school board. Law enforcement, there's a lot to it. I'm an Army veteran, so I've always had that service in me. So, I'm looking forward to continue to serve, and hopefully I can bring some good input and all my past trainings to help the board out.
Well, yeah, speaking as a former school board member myself, I know that people who have special training or experience, they bring that to the board with them, and the board can use it as a whole. So that's a plus that you particularly in this day and time when school safety is such a in the paper issue.
Yes, it can be very scary. Yes, and I was a school board member, as a school resource officer, I went to several trainings on school safety. I went to SRO 1 and SRO 2, I believe was the schools were called. And, I went to crisis intervention training and all that kind of thing. And that apparently is going to fit the board right now.
Well, Joedy, it's been a tumultuous 20-21 months for the school board since there were 2 new board members added in January of 2023, I think.
I think so.
Or 22. Anyway,
I'm hazy on these dates.
Yeah. Anyway, the board this last year and a half or year and 10 months, like I said, it's been tumultuous. The relationship between the board and superintendent's been strained at best. The board tried to fire the superintendent, and that move was overturned by the acting commissioner of Kentucky Department of Education. The school board, with the new majority, pulled out of contracts related to the community campus plan that had been approved by the previous school board. And its actions cost the district well over $1 million. I haven't never heard the total, and that was money. Now that money didn't come out of construction funds or anything. That money came out of their general fund, and they're not flush with cash. Right. And I think that was an awful result of all the turmoil. And there were calls for a former board chairman to resign, and one of the board members did resign because he was unhappy with, one of the reasons was unhappy with some of the what he saw as potential ethical violations by the board. I mean, it's just been a very rocky road, Joedy, and I don't know. There was a parent group that was filing open records requests, and I think that ended up going to court. And I'm not sure that's been resolved yet. But like I say, it's just been, one thing after another. In more recent times, the board has been focusing on progress, trying to get some things done. They've got the old vocational school, big project going on, and then the work at New Haven, much needed work at New Haven. But it's been a rough road. And so anyway, with that in mind, I wanted to ask what prompted you to throw your hat in the ring for school board?
Well, I believe all those things you just mentioned. So I have been going to school board meetings for a little while now, and you see all those educators, the principals join together, and that is so powerful. I mean, they get in there and they're just talking, and it almost feels like they're not being heard, and that's scary, because a lot of them have said, we've emailed, no response, and that's just something that I would like to change. Obviously, you're always going to have some kind of issues. I want to do the best I can. I'm transparent. I consider myself a very honest, full of integrity kind of person, and I want to follow the rules. I want to do the right thing. I don't want to keep this rife going. I'm not going in with any kind of agenda to keep this person, to fire this person. I just want to go in, get the data that we need to make those decisions, and then you go from there, and just try to be an active listener, listen to them, at least make them feel like they're being heard.
Well, Margie, I'll let you weigh in on this. I think, as somebody who's covered school boards for 30 years, I think one of a board member's most important tools is listening.
Yes,
because you
absolutely.
take advice from the experts that work for the district.
Right.
In matters of finance, education matters, and you depend on those experts.
Right.
I mean, because a school board member is not expected to be, a PhD in all areas of education.
No, not at all. Not at all. Your responsibility is to try to get the best education possible for every student in the school system.
Right.
And the way you start out by doing that is to hiring the best person possible for the job of leading the school district, and then following his or her advice toward achieving that goal. If you find out that you have different goals, then yes, it's time to part ways, but you have to do it in a legal fashion.
Right. Well, Joedy, I saw the same thing you did, and it was amazing to at one meeting, I think all 12 school principals stood up, and then a huge group of teachers were behind them, and it was like, and they kind of expressed the same thing that they don't feel listened to,
right.
But anyway, and I think you would probably like to be the change in that,
right.
As a potential board member.
Right. Like I said, a lot of law enforcement background. I do want to be a peacemaker. I do understand that, there's still going to be decisions that are going to be made that not everybody's going to like. I mean, it comes with it.
Right.
But like you said, sometimes there just needs to be change to be made. And hopefully that will be the case, and I can help.
Right, and well, as a former SRO, school resource officer, you bring a unique perspective to the job as a board member. Tell us a little bit about that. Because you, as an SRO, you interacted with students on a daily basis.
Yes, it was great. It was great. Actually, if you check my Facebook page out, I have a lot of videos of me back when I was the school resource officer or the DARE officer, and we had fun. I had a great time. That job pretty much has set me up for the continuing of my career.
Right.
So as from the SRO DARE officer, I went to detective, and that role had impact. The SRO role had major impact on the detective role, just because I had known so many of those kids, and sometimes they continued to make bad decisions. So sometimes I had that kind of involvement, and then even as a business owner, a lot of my business comes from the kids that were in my DARE classes or my school resource officer.
Well, you learn the value of communication with them.
Absolutely.
And I think a lot of times people have a difficulty with that. They see themselves in a position of power, and then everybody else is, okay, wait till your time to speak, rather than let's converse, let's be on the same level here.
Right.
And I would think that as a school resource officer, that making those connections would make your job easier.
Oh, it was great. I mean,
rather than being seen as we're scared the policeman's here.
Right.
That's hey, the policeman's here.
Right. And that took some use to getting used to, even as the DARE officer. Everybody was excited to see you when you came in. And that was always a good feeling.
But that's a good feeling.
Right,
I'm sure there are school districts where that doesn't happen.
Well, and I was a police officer for 10 years beforehand, so not everybody's always excited to see the police officer. So it was definitely an interesting change. So it was exciting.
Joedy, I know that in being a school board member, you'll have to do a lot of training. I remember, I think it was like 30 hours that first year. You have time for that.
Oh, yes, I am willing. Another thing I have time for, I believe, is I don't like the way that the school board has limited the speaking. I know it makes for long school board meetings, and I know there's got to be a stop at a certain point.
Right.
But I feel like if there's still people on the list and you still have time, I think you can hear them out. And I think that's what caused some of the frustration. It's like, you're not listening to us because you're not even letting us talk.
Right.
So I would like, hopefully, we can get the other board members to agree that maybe
Right.
we can open that back up and get some more feedback, and maybe that will make them feel better.
Right.
Well, I think-
And there is, you do need to limit people's time
Right.
because otherwise some people get hurt and other people do not.
Correct.
And I know that's always a solution that a lot of people don't want to hear. But, yeah, I understand that need, but I also understand the need for people
I
wanting
agree.
to be
And I
heard.
like that they said no personal attacks, because
Yeah.
it's almost where it was feeling personal. And the slashing the tires, that's terrible. I mean, that's no way to be.
The well, I was going to mention that as well. The pardon me. I think I can remember when no one, or maybe one or two people, might speak at a school board meeting.
Right.
But now this is just shooting from the hip, from my perspective. It was the actions of the school board itself that resulted in so many parents speaking against what they were doing. They kind of created the storm. And then parents ended up when they start curtailing time, and you felt not listened to, and though your input didn't matter.
Right.
And some of the school board kind of gave that perception. And I've seen too many school boards in action to know that that's not what you want to, the message a school board wants to get
No,
across.
no.
You want to know what parents are thinking, but again, there was so much turmoil that parents wanted to speak out, and I know they had to limit it, but they did limit it, like 3 minutes per individual, 5 minutes.
Understandable.
But if you've got 40 people that want to speak for 3 minutes, that does get lengthy. But
It does.
Anyway,
But I think it takes so much courage for those individuals to go up there and speak in front of people that they don't know. I mean, they're passionate because they feel like their kids are not being treated as they should.
That's how school boards get elected. They get elected by parents and concerned citizens. And so they need to listen to those concerns. That's why they're elected.
Right, absolutely.
Well, I'll tell you, I think I would consider it an abuse. There were people who were signing up, wanted to get on that list to speak before the meeting. You should be present and sign your name, I think.
Right.
But the more people who were in, let's call it what it was. There were two camps. There were those who were in favor of the board majority and those who weren't. And supporters of the board would sometimes get on the list before the meeting. And then if they limit to 30 minutes, well, then you've got supporters who are filling up spots that someone who's critical of the board may take.
Oh.
So, yeah, that happened more than once, I know. But anyway, I think it's probably, I can assume that you would prefer to be on a board and that's working on education and not dealing with parent strife and debates on various topics, that aren't necessarily school board material, anyway, you bring an interesting amount of experience to the job. Plus, you were a parent, and I think that's being a parent is one of the most important skills I think a school board member can bring to the table.
Well, it's why people want to get involved on the school board. I know it was for me. I had 6 children in the school system in Bardstown at one time.
Wow.
Well, Margie, you were involved before you even were a member of the board.
Yeah. I was. I was PTO. We did a lot of things. In fact, some of the things we got done, I'm still really proud of. But it just takes involved parents and citizens to make a good school system. It
does. Involvement's hard.
It takes it takes time. It takes time. But if our children aren't worth the time, what do we have?
Absolutely.
Well, Joedy, I know that there have been complaints that the board isn't responsive to individuals. Well, are you, as a potential board member, will you respond to, concerns that parents contact you?
If I get an email, I feel like I'm going to respond quickly. I mean, now I could say I get 1,000 emails on my first day, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what do I do? But I will try to respond, and I will respond sincerely to all the concerns, and I will try to express opinions on why I'm going a certain way.
Keeping in mind this major axiom. Individual school board members do not speak for the board.
Right.
The board is only legal as a group meeting together. Once you get out of that chair and walk out the door, you have no more authority than the next person walking down the street. Your authority does not extend beyond that meeting room.
Correct.
I mean, if you win and you go to these education classes, that's the first thing that they will tell you.
Well,
don't get on your high horse. You have no individual. You have no individual duties. Your duty is strictly as a member of a unit.
Interesting, but I mean, I still feel like you need to respond to those emails.
Yes, I'm saying that, but you can't
speak for the board.
You can't speak for the board.
Absolutely.
And that's kind of hard to remember sometimes.
Right, I'm sure.
Because everybody has an opinion.
Right, exactly.
But one more thing I'd like to throw out, while I was the school resource officer, we did the Squad 139 Club, and we did that at Thomas Nelson.
Well, what is that?
So it was a club. It was cool. Again, I posted several YouTube videos on it, but I would have this club during club days, like whenever they would have beta or they would have any sorts of clubs that they did. I don't remember them all. Much goodness, there was a bunch. But they would come to class, and I would have different speakers come in. So I would have the K-9 officer come in, or I'd have dispatchers come in, had EMS, fire come in, and they would just, we would always, I'd do a poll and see, hey, who y'all want? We even had the horses come in from Louisville and do a spiel, and there's 20, 30 minutes, and that was another cool program that we did for several years there. And of course, Squad 139 was for Jason Ellis. That's where we got the name from, and it was just a cool experience, and it was another way to interact with kids, get that personal.
And it may have inspired some of those kids to go on to service.
There have been several go in the Army and the services. So yes, it was a cool experience.
Well, I would tell you I consider. I think EMS, dispatch, all of our first responders are too often unsung heroes.
Absolutely.
Because the guy at 911 dispatch, he's the lifeline for officers and for other first responders.
Absolutely.
I mean, if something's happening in the field and you can't talk to dispatch, but anyway, I think they're getting more credit now for the job they do as volunteers, or not volunteers, but as professionals than they used to. But I mean, they do deserve the credit because everybody's working as a team, and that's so critical.
Well, speaking of that, do you remember them installing the Fast Pass system at the school systems, Bardstown and Nelson County? Do y'all remember that at all? So it was a program for school safety. I want to say they installed it back in 2019, 2020. But it was a series of placards. So if you go into school and you just see a bunch of random numbers on the door, the average person wouldn't know it. But the trained officers can tell which hallways they're going into, where the library is, where whatever they have marked, gym, things like that. So that is something that they trained on. EMS, fire, dispatch, they were all trained on that. I'm not sure if they're still training, but I want to make sure that that's still happening, because I think that's a very huge piece to getting there quickly and
knowing where you're going.
Yeah, going where you're going, because that's the most important part.
Right.
Because if somebody, I'm in room whatever. I mean, not every officer, if they don't have any training, they're not going to know where room 301 is.
Right. You can't. It would help you.
Right.
Know where you're at in the school. And, because sometimes I would go into school and it would like trying to get your bearings. And, under a stressful situation, anything that's a great assist.
Oh, yes, absolutely. I mean, I remember, unfortunately, we'd have kids that would have a medical situation and we'd have to call 911 and, I'm going out the front door. But yeah, in high stress situations, it is hard to describe that. And so it's a good system.
All right. Well, Joedy, let's take a break for some commercial messages. You're listening to Bradford and Brooks and our very special guest here in the studio, Joedy Gilliland, a candidate for District 2 School Board. All right, we'll be back in just a few minutes. Please stay tuned.
Time now for a look at your weather forecast on your hometown radio station, WBRT. Brought to you by Matt Equipment Company on Highway 245 in Bardstown, offering equipment rentals such as skid steers, lifts, and excavators. For our Wednesday, we'll see mostly sunny skies by the afternoon with highs reaching around 57 in downtown Bardstown. Patchy frost likely overnight tonight as low temperatures drop around that freezing mark at 32 degrees. For our Thursday, sunny skies in the forecast and highs in the lower 60s, with overnight lows around freezing again at 33. And to wrap up our work week on Friday, areas of frost early, otherwise sunny skies on Friday, with highs returning to the upper 60s and overnight lows Friday night in the mid to upper 30s throughout central Kentucky. And that's a look at your weather forecast here on your hometown radio station, WBRT, brought to you by Matt Equipment Company in Bardstown, your local Wardlawn and Red Max dealer. Also offering Vivid EV golf carts, Halo pizza ovens, and homebrew equipment, Matt Equipment Company.
Classic country favorites and some of the soon-to-be legends mixed in. WBRT. Our hometown is your hometown. WBRT is your hometown radio in Bardstown, Lebanon, and Springfield.
Some people just know they could save hundreds on car insurance by checking Allstate first. Like, to check that your seats aren't in the visitor section first, before buying tickets.
I'm so excited for this game. I can't believe you got us tickets. Me too. Wait, are we on the wrong side?
Yeah, checking first is smart. So check Allstate first for a quote that could save you hundreds.
This is going to be a long game.
You're in good hands with Allstate.
Savings vary, subject to terms, conditions, and availability. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates, Northbrook, Illinois.
Stream the best of British TV on...
All right, you're back with Bradford and Brooks, Jim Brooks and Margie Bradford, with you until the top of the hour. And along with our special guest, Joedy Gilliland. He's a candidate for District 2, Nelson County Board of Education. And you may have seen Jody's name all on the internet. He operates Signal One Realty and Insurance. And I don't know, how long have you been up on that corner, Joedy?
I've been there, we got 2021, 2022, so, yeah.
Well, I tell you, I love your location.
Oh, I do too.
I have, I told myself years ago I'd love to have that house.
Hey, we can sell to you.
Well, it doesn't have enough yard now. It's got parking lots.
Where is it?
I'm across the street from Arby's and Domino's there at 697.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. The big white building, green
Yeah.
brick.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Well, during the break, we were discussing school safety, and I know that as a former SRO, that's always first and foremost in your mind. Honestly, I'm not sure where things are right now. I know that with Dr. Orr, there was discussion about setting up the SR program as a department, just for the legal reasons and everything else. What's the solution for improving school safety in your mind?
Well, like I said, I think we want to use the things that we have in place. I think training is really important. Making sure that the officers, and not only the police officers, but the firemen, EMS, dispatchers are trained on the buildings. Make sure the maps are up to date. That's a big thing. Because, you have changes sometimes. And like I was talking about Fast Path, if certain areas have changed, they might have to go back later and update the hallway names or the numbers. And
sure.
So I feel like a lot of that stuff is very important, and you have to stay on top of training, because I will always say training is the most important thing you can do. I mean, if you get 2 new deputies that come in and they don't know anything about the school, and they're the ones that get called, then you're in trouble. But if you get 2 guys that know the schools and have been trained, then you're probably in better shape.
Right. I think one of the most important things that, as a board member, of course, Margie, you can weigh in on this too, is trying to look. You have a facilities planning committee that tries to look ahead, and you have, they get input from all sorts of experts about population trends and growth. And I know as a realtor, realty agent, you that you see that too, and you see where the growth is happening. It's kind of fast. That part of it is fascinating to me. But but then school boards have to figure out where schools need to be. And then, because building a school, it's not a simple process, and it takes a lot of work with the state, all the BG1, all the way through to get from conception to reality. What are your thoughts on the current county school district facilities? I know that I think New Haven is one of our oldest schools, and I think it's finally getting some much needed attention. Nelson County High School is another building that really needs some work. I mean, was it 50 years old now, or close to that?
Was the new wing was 2002?
Yeah, something like that. But as a school board member, you've got to, and again, in addition to facilities, you have to figure out how to pay for them and what order to do what projects, because you can only, the state will limit how much money you can bond as a school district. So there's a lot of thought that goes into that.
Well, and you have to think ahead. You have to think 10 years down the road as a school board member, because in reality, getting a new school built takes about that length of time.
Right.
And you have to be prepared for the best estimates of what the school population is most likely to be 10 years down the road, so that you have the facilities for it. I mean, if you wait till you need it, you're not going to have it.
You don't have anything, right?
Yeah, you're going to be overcrowded.
Because getting the funding for it and having the plans, I mean, these are years-long processes.
And I think we're in the middle of those years-long processes. I mean, New Haven, this has been talked about for years, and I think even whenever I did the safety checks on the New Haven school, we're saying this walkway, not having a covered walkway, I mean, those kids are getting wet every time. Right, absolutely. And I mean, I'm sure they would like to get to the gym very comfortably instead of freezing or getting rained on.
Right.
So that's definitely, I mean, that's got to get done. But Nelson County, the shape of our county, our top hat there.
I mean, it is.
When you have the top and there's small population, and the bottom is small population, and in the center you have all the population. Right. Majority of the population.
Majority of the population.
That makes it difficult because
you want to build where the population is, but you can't ignore the outlying populations.
Absolutely, you can't. And I mean, I'm big into, I want the kids to be able to experience school. If they want to play volleyball, if they want to play soccer, if they want to play football, I want them to have that opportunity to do so. Now, with that said, a person living in top at Chaplin, they might not have a resource to be able to get to Nelson County High School to play football. It's just unfortunate. And I mean, I don't know if there's an answer to that, but I mean, I would love to see something happen to where we can get the kids involved again, and the band. I mean, it's a matter of affording the same opportunities to all of the children as opposed to some of the children. Right, absolutely.
And so we sometimes you have to have trade-offs. I know. I mean, I went to a very small school and I loved it. I mean, the teachers know you, the school principal knows you, everybody knows you, and you have that. That's wonderful. But then you don't have the larger experience of these other opportunities that might mean the world to you.
Absolutely. Like, I couldn't imagine having the airplane. The aerospace.
Well, that would have been wonderful to have.
Yes.
So you have to face reality that the only way you're going to be able to afford that is if you have the full classes for it, that you can afford to have a teacher for it.
Absolutely. So when I taught DARE, Drug Abuse Resistant Education, so we started that off at OKH, and that was when Brian Clark was there. Great principal, he did a great job.
Yeah.
It was great to know. But I was there teaching during that time, but they wanted me at New Haven, they wanted me at Boston, they wanted me at Bloomfield, and I'm like, I'm already working 10 at night to 6 in the morning, and then I'm getting an hour of sleep, coming in, teaching DARE for 8 hours, going home, trying to take a nap before I go in at 10 o'clock or 8 o'clock again that night. So that couldn't be done.
You were running on fumes.
I was. And that's when my 15-year-old was a young one too, so that was an experience. But, DARE was very rewarding, like I said, for the career. I think it did a lot of good for the students that went through it. And again, it's kept relationships going for a very long time. So the point of that is, if we were kind of at least closer combined near each other, I could have maybe helped and got more of those schools done, but I just couldn't do it. But being all over the county like that.
Are there any other initiatives or things you would like, kind of your wish list of the needs that you see in the school district? Not that you personally could make them happen, but you could be a voice in favor.
You can,
Yeah, you could advocate for a certain direction.
We talk about all these building plans, and I think that's just a reoccurring problem, right? You have the 34-year experience, so I feel like once you complete one, then there's going to be the next one, then there's going to be the next one. It's never ending.
Well, if your town is growing, your county is growing, your town is going, the school system has to grow along with it. So it's not so much of a problem as it is a result of a growing population and a growing economy. I mean, when you should start to worry is when it stagnates.
Right.
And it's going nowhere, then you're not going to you're not going to have to make those improvements, but that's because you don't have the population for it.
Right, absolutely. So that I think that would be a good thing. Is my wish list would be for some of that stuff to get started and get that work underway, because I feel like we're saying we're going to do work, but the work's still not getting done. So that would be where I would start, and then just hopefully we can get back to a time where those guest comments are more positive and not so passionate and concerned, because they're being listened to.
Right.
So that's what I wish.
Well, I mean, the concerns of the parents of the students, as well as the general citizens who want peace on their school boards and progress in their community. You do have to pay attention to that. As a school board member, I know I would.
Absolutely, you got to.
Well, Joedy, this may not be a fair question, so if it isn't, let me know.
Let's go.
Just now, as a parent of a district, it's a district student, have you been satisfied with our superintendent, Wes Bradley's performance as superintendent?
As far as a parent, I would say yes. I've known Wes for some time. I'm not out to fire him. I'm not out to keep him. I'm just, I've got no agenda coming into this. We're going to have the data. We're going to have the test scores. Like Margie said, I'm going to be taking a lot of training. So maybe I can be trained to see something more, that if he's doing anything wrong, or maybe I can see something doing correctly. And I feel like the principals, the superintendent, everyone that I've talked to, I think they all are pure at heart and they want the best for the kids. I don't think there's anybody like, oh my gosh, I'm just going to do the worst job behind the back, and I don't feel like anybody's really being shady. I think they have a good vision. I would like to see them to be able to work on that vision and to educate our children. So that's the thing on it. I'll wait to see some of the data, but yes, I've been happy.
Okay, I know that there's been, Margie, you remember when Kara came in, that site-based councils were given a lot of power as far as hiring principals.
Oh, yeah, they
And
were.
I think there's been some changes in that, but I know that in my experience talking with superintendents, they've always wanted to have more input on principal positions.
Right, but because it's their job to evaluate those principals.
Right, and that's such
along with the rest of the staff.
Right, and I think, you have to recognize that how valuable a good principal is.
Oh my gosh!
For it's the building kind of follows the leadership.
Absolutely.
You know how that works.
Well, I was there for 4 years, and we had 3 different principals at the time, and that's just, I don't think that's the right way to go down. I mean, I don't know the reasons for the firings, obviously, but or if they left on their own. If they're doing self-improvement, you can't judge a assistant principal that's leaving to be a principal somewhere else,
right?
Or if they're they're improving. But the change I felt like was really high when I was there, and I mean that was throughout the whole entire system.
Right. Yeah, I remember that because I. Through project graduation, got to know, work with one of the principals who didn't come back the next year.
Right.
And just was kind of left wondering, well, what happened?
I always wonder, like, what can they do in a year that they can't learn? Because it seems like they would need to get
it's a learning. Unless they've been a principal before, it's a learning situation.
Sure, right.
Every new job is a learning situation. So maybe it turned out to be more problems than they thought.
Right. Could be.
But yeah.
Joedy is a longtime law enforcement officer. What is there any solution to improving school safety other than metal detectors or clear? For a while we had to have clear backpacks, which never lasted because the vinyl would tear, or it would if you loaded as much stuff in your backpack as my son did. But what about school safety? I know that every time there's a shooting anywhere in the United States, that the topic comes back up, and there's a lot of discussion about it. But I don't know that there's any one solution.
Like I said, whenever you do those security checks on buildings, I think you could take 2 trained people and go see 2 different problems. Some people like to see the doors in the schools covered. Some like to see them open. Some like to see the green dots and the red dots to show that there was a problem or there wasn't a problem. But I think a lot of that just depends on opinion, and I think a lot of that just depends on your building. I think a lot of that and once you go back to the training of it and knowing the school and having dispatch be able to tell you where such and such is, or like I said, the Fast Path program, I think that can help you. But is there anything specific? The metal detectors, I believe, is just too much. I don't think there's enough manpower to be able to man.
And there's such a huge expense for a school system.
And then you're talking about 700 kids coming through.
And there's just too many ways to bypass it.
Yeah, right. I feel like, unfortunately, some schools where that situation has happened has had those measures, and still it still happens.
Right.
So it's unfortunate. It's just a scary topic. It really is. I mean, it's really, it's a difficult one.
Yeah, yes, but children are safer in school than they are at home or on the street. Most shootings happen, that's where they happen. Either people have left their guns loaded and within reach of a child, or they have not secured them. So that it could be put together so that some child who's really been hurt maybe or bullied or whatever sees a solution of grabbing a gun and taking it to school.
And that's where we like the reporting too. I mean, when students do report, I mean, even if it's anonymous or whatever, but like I said, there's only so much you can do in those situations, but at least you have something you can look into.
Right.
I think that just as an outside observer who reads the news, some of the schools have done in most cases a good job of being proactive. For example, the practice of if there's an issue, closing the door, and staying out of view from any window. I know that there's been instances where that's saved lives, because if you can't see these students, you don't see a target. If you're, depending on what your reasoning is for going into a school. So, I don't know if there's other measures like that, but the training has improved. There's just so much I think you can do.
Right.
To try to be prepared for some sort of emergency like that. It's sad that you have to even prepare for it.
And the good thing is, they have 2 school resource officers right now, so they have. So that's a good thing. That's what I really would have liked to have. What my goal would have been having a full-time. Me at Nelson County High School and all those feeder schools, and then would have a part-time maybe at Thomas Nelson and those feeder schools. And I think that could have helped, but now they have 2 full-timers, and I think that's amazing. I think that's really, really good.
I know you haven't looked at it closely, but is there a need for additional part-time or full-time support for that, you think?
What I would like to see is just like, we'll go back to training, but I'd like to see the sheriff's office, the city police, be able to train with them, so they're all on the same page in case of an emergency.
Right.
Because again, they have to know how to get into the building where the students are. I mean, that's what they have to get done. So that'll be my answer to that.
All right.
Well, I think it would be, as far as safety goes, it would be very helpful to have counselors, to have people who are trained to help spot problems before they happen.
Absolutely.
I mean, all of the things we're talking about is dealing with the situation after it's already happened. But there needs to be more exploration and training in how to prevent it from happening, as opposed to trying to catch it after it's already started.
Right. But, hey, I think our school system's great, and I think we're doing the right things, and we just got to keep on going. I mean, hopefully there's a lot of progress that can continue to be made, and again, I really want to help and do what I can to make it even better.
Well, Joedy, we've got about 3 minutes left. Give you an opportunity to give your final comments to our listening audience.
Gotcha. Well, again, I just would ask people to learn more about me. Again, I'm an open book. Get on my Vote for Joedy Facebook page. Like I said, there's a lot of videos. There's even a video of my retirement. They came down and did an interview for me on that. And that's always been cool. Even, like I said, there's some videos of when I did there. So I'm pretty well, I've got a history videos on there to show what I've done, and I'm willing to learn a lot for this. I'm willing to do all the training. I mean, I will devote the time that's necessary to make it be an effective member. So that's just more about me,
Now, you have a separate Facebook page from your personal page?
I do, yes.
Okay.
And it is Joedy Gilliland for School Board.
Okay.
If you search that, and then I've got a votejody.com. That's Joedy. It's a little different spelling for Joedy, but yes.
Yes.
All right. Well, I visited your personal page, and I was looking for the school board candidate page, but
you didn't find it.
Well, maybe I didn't look far enough.
Oh, gosh. We'll have to work on that.
Actually, I got caught up in your feed.
Gotcha. That can happen. I post a lot.
Well, that's what Facebook's all about.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
the biggest time waster in the world.
It can be.
Well, that Instagram, TikTok, etc. Wish we. I don't know the solution, but and I wouldn't expect you to have an answer, but. I don't know, to me, social media is a problem among young people because, as I said earlier, when we went home from school,
Absolutely.
With social media as prevalent as it is. All those pressures and all your people from your school, those you like, those you don't, they're with you on social media.
Yes, sir.
So today's kids are under a whole different type of pressure.
You can be bullied from 3 states away because I had had a granddaughter who was
It's sad.
crying because something someone said on social media when she was here for a visit. So it's that kind of thing. You can't get away from it.
Right. Well, we can't expect our kids to kind of have the tough skin the way those of us adults who've been in the media, or I'm sure as an officer, you've probably been called every name in the book.
A little bit.
Yeah. And anyway, I was recently referred to as a Sasquatch on a YouTube comment, so that's the first for me.
Oh, I hadn't heard that one. Well, I don't get on there, so I don't know what they call me.
Well, Joedy, I want to thank you for taking time to come in
Guys,
today.
thank you all for having me so much. I do appreciate your time. Thank you for all the listeners. And Margie, I might be again picking your brain sometime. I hope.
What there is left of it.
That's right. I like advice, that's for sure.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for this week's Bradford and Brooks. And next Wednesday, Margie, will Karen Lee be our guest next week?
Yes.
All right. Karen Lee, another candidate for school board, will be on. Until then, have a great week, everybody. We'll see you then. Take care.